Welcome back, baseball fans. 1972-75 off-season look for the league coming up in 2024. This is the final look at the 128 keepers that each team designates in the last group of 8 teams. Each team has 4 of the 8 keepers, guys with their 1971 cards that are closed out, and so the best 4 they keep, and they have to pick which year of the 4 upcoming years do you pick for the players. And we don't have to make, of course, the designation now, but in this format, as we have seen, what I've done in the first pass is I vacated by deleting the number. Vacated a year where the player wasn't very good. You see these vacant boxes there. And then if a guy has a particularly singularly great year, I will highlight that as just to suggest, let's get that guy with that card. So we've gone through 24 teams. We're going to wrap up the last 8 alphabetically. And tonight we're going to begin by looking at the world champion Pirates. So the Pirates are going to keep, of course, Roberto Clemente, his farewell tour. He announces his retirement in spring training in '72. And they're also going to keep, of course, Willie Stargell, Rennie Stennett, and Bruce Keyson was somewhat of a surprise to get that last keeper role because he's a Pirate throughout the decade versus Steve Blass, who only has 1 more year left. So they decided to trade out a Blass, get some value out of that. And when you look at this list, well, we have the obvious for Clemente, so we'll be taking the 72 card. So that means that you can only take 1 more 72 card of the other players. And of the Pirates, really, it's the 1974 Stargell, and this is really worth looking at here, as we have all the cards of each of the players listed here. And this is the cluster for Stargell. Reading off the OPSs chronologically, starting in 72, it's 930, 1038, 944, 891. And obviously, it's actually 73, even better. Actually wrote the wrong number in there. The 73 year really pops off the page for Stargell. He's got 1038 OPS. It's like automatic. Any guy over 1,000 you should get in the league. Had 44 homers and a 299 batting average. Can't play first base yet. That's a consideration. He can play first base a year later, but then you wouldn't be using this fantastic Stargell card. So I prefer the card. We'll figure out how to work out the first base position. Not to mention he's not particularly gifted at first base anyway. So let's just have his stick be as destructive as it can possibly be for Pop Stargell in 73. So it looks like Clemente 72, Pops in 73, and then Keyson and Stennett bring you plenty of versatility in the other years. So they're fine. They won't have anybody blocked by a situation where you have too many guys in one season. All right, let's move on to the Portland Club. Ron Blomberg, Angel Mengual, Frank Robinson, Ray Sadecki. Good news here is none of the players are pigeonholed into 1 year, but none of them have a particularly exceptional one only year, which is actually good. It gives them flexibility to work in free agents, rookies, waiver guys. So you got plenty of versatility with all these Portland players. These middle years for Bloomberg is hitting over 300 as a DH. Frank Robinson's probably going to be better as younger as he gets, probably closer here. But in this outlier year, way out here in 75 where he's very old, let's go check out what happened. Why is that outlying? Yeah, he's 39 years old, but he hits 9 homers and 118 at-bats. So in a short sample size, that gets to a 508 slugging. That'd be the highest slugging since 71 when he was with Baltimore. So that's why this outlier year is there for Frank. And, you know, good news that you got guys like Ray Sadecki who have versatility with Frank and Ron Bloomberg, and Mangual's just a corner outfielder versus left-handed pitching only. Not a big deal there. Moving on, let's go to the Padres. Padres have a very unusual situation where they're all right-handed pitchers. Very strange. That because you only can have 5. And the Padres have Jim Schellenbach, a lefty. They have Randy Jones, a lefty. And they do have Fry Slavin and an Ed Sprague card. So it sounds like one of these keepers they might keep after all. And that's fine. You can still make deals. This keeper list is just to comport to the required, you know. Plus, they could also go with 6 right-handed pitchers if they find there aren't adequate lefties. So, but generally, the rule I comport to is that every team needs 3 lefties. But as I've seen in some other of the leagues I've played, I've allowed a team to have 2 lefties in lieu of a very bad left-handed options that just don't serve a purpose but to get knocked around and be uncompetitive. So that's why a team might just load up with more righties than lefties. Johnson, Kirby, Bob Miller, and Romo. Of this list, the most intriguing guy is Clay Kirby. He plays in all of the years. Will go on to Cincinnati at some point. But he's got some nice years here. He pitches on 3 days rest in 72 and 74. We think those are his best years. He's got 3.13 and 3.28 ERAs in those years. Pretty nice stuff out of Clay Kirby before he leaves for the Reds. Let's move on here. We'll go to Seattle. Really, Seattle's got some very pleasant options for an expansion team. Fans of Seattle probably a little disappointed that their expansion brothers, Toronto, really shined a year ago. They made the playoffs, actually fought tooth and nail with the big bad Oakland A's in the wild card round, taking them to a Game 5. But meanwhile, Seattle is struggling trying to get a good team and has yet to have a winning season, as you would have expected. They went out and got Ross Grimsley, a player that neither the Reds nor the Baltimore Orioles seemed that interested in. So Seattle jumped on him. They bring back a Steve Kline, a Joe Pepitone, and Skip Lockwood now has a new role. So he's a starting pitcher. Went to the All-Star game with a 71 card. And then he's okay the next 2 years. But in 75, Lockwood goes to a closer role with the New York Mets. And he's got a 1.49 ERA in 48 innings, a 1.09 whip. So suddenly, boom, you just got yourself a closer. And Grimsley's 74 is actually very good. Grimsley's only 24 years old in 74. 3.07 ERA, 1.16 whip. You know, Ross Grimsley wins 20 games with the Expos a little bit later in the decade, so this could be a nice investment here with Grimsley and Lockwood. And Steve Kline, bring him back with his 72 card, and Pepitone. That's pretty straightforward right there. I almost know exactly how this draft's going to fall. Kline has one more good year, and it is 72 with a 1.07 whip. And Pepitone has one more year left as well. And he's got a 262 card for 706 OPS. Good defensive first baseman, Joe Pepitone. Let's go to the Giants. They had a fun off season. Bobby Bonds, Dick Dietz, Juan Marichal, and they brought back Willie Mays. So, the Mets obviously pursued Mays as he was very old. And they got him, and he had played in the 73 series, very old. So we had the Mets pursue him much sooner than that in my league by getting his 1970 card. Paid a lot to get it. And so the Giants got some draft value from Willie Mays already, and then they got him back anyway to finish his career. So it's actually Willie returns did give the Mets a World Series ring, but you know, the Giants have still been competitive with him not on the team. There's some really intriguing Giants cards here. Let's start with Willie Mays, though. So Mays I vacated a 73 card. Just didn't think it was very good. And in 72, look at this, folks. This is really amazing. He's 41 years old, and his defense in center field is a 2-2 E9 in center field, and he's 41 years old. Is there any other player in Major League history that I am not aware of? I was kind of going through the modern players who were Gold Glovers, like their Torrey Hunters or Jim Edmonds, or I don't know. Is there any other athlete who's 41 years old playing center field as a 2 with a -2 arm? That is amazing. And so that card is going to go to the Giants this year, which makes Bobby Bonds able to go into the corner outfield position as well, where he's a 1 and a 2 in center field. And 73 Bonds, which I highlighted, he's got 39 home runs, a 530 OPS, 530 slugging, 900 OPS. 73 Dick Dietz, the only year I highlighted. This is staggering. I don't use that often, but Dick Dietz has a 474 on-base percentage. That's Barry Bonzian. This team is going to be a gas, man. Mays, 72. I might as well just highlight these since I know they're, you know. Mays, 72. Yeah, do Marichal too. We know what's going to happen. And that's their draft. Because Marichal, you know, obviously a younger Marichal you want versus an older one. So, yeah, that's what the old Giants have let some young talent go. They've lost Ken Henderson already. They've lost Gary Maddox already. You know, I think they lost Steve Stone already, too. So they've lost some young players while keeping the old guard around. But it's kind of fun. I'm looking forward to playing that season for the Giants. So, next up, St. Louis Cardinals. All right. So, Brock, very versatile, as you can imagine, but 74 AAA Steeler. And I've seen in the Fall League that I play, that Tim Raines, as a AAA Steeler in a different timeline, in the 80s timeline, is actually really taking advantage of that holding for AAAs, and it's becoming very productive. So I'm rethinking that might be really, really valuable. Originally, I didn't think it was a big deal between a AA and a AAA, but now I'm rethinking it, and I kind of want to see Brock in that card. Joe Torre really is bad defensively at third base now, but he's going to have to play there until we figure out another third base option, until we get Kenny Reitz, I guess. And he can move over to first. But really, the other guys, Kennedy, Siebert, and Torre, it doesn't really matter where we pick these guys. Their performances are very similar in all the years. Not a really flashy draft for the Cardinals, other than Brock. Down to the last couple teams. Texas Rangers. Dick Bosman, a very intriguing career in this carryover league as far as the teams he's played for. We had him as the Washington Senator, Texas Ranger. Then he left Texas and went to the Cincinnati Reds, won a World Series with the Cincinnati Reds. Then they cut him. Very strange. So he returned to the Texas Rangers, showed him his nice, gaudy Cincinnati Reds World Series ring. And believe it or not, 4 years into the future, which is very rare, is his best performance, as he's got a 110 whip. Anytime that whip gets to 110 or below, you should jump on it. And that's what we're going to do. E0 as well. So 4-year deal, 4-year contract is the 4th year out, which means you have that same card. You know, that's locking up a great player who, frankly, between 71, 72, 73 was just kind of ordinary. So that's good for the Rangers. Bill Hands, his 72. He's pretty consistent, but in 72, he has a 113 whip. So these guys are really this is the best pitching years at either end of the timeline for two different guys. Lindblad's pretty consistent, but if you just want to get him as a top-notch closer, 74's the year for Lindblad with a 2.06 ERA. Also was with Oakland. So that's also a boon for this team. A really bad Texas team. If they can get an Oakland player away from them, they already have Mike Epstein, who played for Oakland. If you can get some Oakland A's away from them and on the Rangers, that will make the league generally more competitive and not, it'll make the dynasty harder for Oakland to realize in this timeline. Interesting thing about Frank Howard, we got 2 years here. He's getting very old now. And you think it should be chronological that you get his most recent card. But actually 73 may be better than 72. Its OPS is 100 points higher in 73. However, if you use him only as a platoon player, he may be more effective in 72. That's why nothing's highlighted here. This is really going to wait and see how the draft falls. If you want to make Frank Howard an everyday player at that age, and that age is, the age is 35 and 36. Still not too old compared to Willie Mays, of course, but nevertheless, he's getting up there, and by 74, he'll be out of the game, I think. So, you got your choice here. So they got some flexibility here. 72, 74, and 5. And Howard could be 73, and then you're looking just at one more player in each year. So that's the maximum flexibility. Now the last team, Toronto. The Darlings. Darlings, I say, a team that went to the playoffs, and it wasn't a fluke, and then when they got to the playoffs, they played the Oakland A's. They were up 2-0, about to knock the Oakland A's, the Dynasty Oakland A's. This is a Toronto Blue Jay team that, by the way, as you probably know, did not exist. They didn't come to exist until 1977. But the team we assembled for them almost knocked the Dynasty A's out in the wild card round because they were such a great team, and they were full of clutch hitters and timely pitchers. It's hard to do that year in and year out. And you're seeing AG's only got a couple years left. Neither particularly shines more than another. They did get another Met after landing Clendenon. NAG. They went out and got Kranepool. And he's got great years in 74 and 75, hitting 300. But it's usually as a one-way player in a platoon. Milt Mays got versatility, high batting average, not much power. And of all the players, the best guy to lock in is Clyde Wright, 72. Let's go take a look at that. So Clyde in 72, 18-11 for California, a 2.98 ERA, 123 WHIP. Pitching on 3 days rest. Great card for him. Then his ERA will start to dip into the 3s and 4s after that. So that's the only card we want to lock in. We have versatility with the other ones. And with that, we have now looked at the entire 32 teams. We looked at all of them. And, we have obviously, you're probably in the front part of the timeline. Remember, you're carrying on a guy from a previous year. So chances are it's a veteran player that's just getting older. And through the attrition of age, he's going to get worse and worse. So you're probably not going to have 75 as the year. And most of the time, you're going to have 72 as the year. If we look at the patterns, you see that 72, the number, exists more frequently than the other numbers. Of course, there are some 75s, which is nice. And that's what you kind of want to do if you like a guy. You get a guy you like, and then he's got 4 years with that card. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to think, oh, I'm going to lose him every year. That's the problem. When guys go 1 year, and then 1 year, then 1 year, then 1 year, every single year he gets on your keeper list and he takes up a spot. So it's nice Sometimes it's more advantageous to just go out 4 years in the future with a guy and lock him up, long term. They're kind of considered to be, a year 1, year 2, 3, 4-year contract. But of course, a team can tear that contract up. It's not a guaranteed contract, but it does cost him a draft pick in the following draft to simply cut a player and add another one, which during draft time we go through that analysis as well. So we have looked at every team's present 12 players and saw opportunity to improve them in a different year. We've looked at 4 more players they want to keep. That's 16 guys associated with a team. So that means there's only 4 other players teams can get in the draft, and that comes from the rookie class, undrafted free agents, guys put on waivers, and guys pulled off the retirement list. So when we do this next week, we're going to start taking a look at the waiver list and see if there's any diamonds in the rough. Guys who only were put on waivers because teams did not find a trade partner and they couldn't keep them because they had too many good guys to keep already. So we'll begin that analysis next week in this process. The 64 waivered guys, we'll look at that next week. Thanks for checking this out. We'll see you next time.